Okay, we're picking up where we left off with the unit circle yesterday. Okay, so yesterday we talked about using quadrant 1 values and the rules of sine and cosine per quadrant to help us to find all of quadrant 2. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about quadrants 3 and 4. Quadrants 3 and 4. Okay, so if we start at 180. If we start at 180, 180 is on the x-axis. So what does that mean the y value is? 0. The y value has to be 0 there. And then it is to the left, and it's a radius length, so we know it has to be -1. Okay? Now, if we look at 210, 210 is how many degrees from 180? 30, right? So we know 210 is going to be a reference angle of 30 degrees. So we look at quadrant 3. What do we know about quadrant 3? Both sine and cosine are both what? Negative. So if we know they're both negative, I can just take the values at 30, degrees, and make them negative. So it's negative square root 3 over 2, negative 1/2. And again, the reason I can do that is because by reference angles, if I take 210 minus 180, that gives me 30 degrees. And then I can just use the values from 30 degrees and work off of that. Okay? How about 225? What's that going to pair up with? 45, right? It's 45 degrees. 225 minus 180 is 45. 45 degrees, as we talked about, is square root 2 over 2, square root 2 over 2. So if these both have to be negative, it's negative square root 2 over 2, negative square root 2 over 2. $240 is 60 degrees from 180. So what's it going to reference angle with? 60. And both have to be negative, so it's negative 1/2, negative square root 3 over 2. Any questions as to how we got quadrant 3 there? Are we seeing the pattern develop there? Okay. Now, what about 270? What's that one going to be? It's on the y-axis. 0, -1. Very good. It's on the y-axis, and it's down 1 unit. Down 1 unit. So the x value, it's not moved left or right at all. It's just down 1. Okay? So I have 3 values left. 300, 315, and 330. So 300 is how far from 360? 60. So what angle does it pair with? 60. Pairs with 60. So 300 degrees is going to be the same as 60, 1/2 square root 3 over 2. Now the question is, which one should be negative? The second one, or sine. Because in quadrant 4, cosine is positive, sine is negative. X is positive, y is negative. Yeah, Jim.
Is 240 that negative square root 3? Or did you say square root?
Negative. Sorry. Yes, those both should be negative. How about 315? What's that going to pair with? 45, right? So it's square root 2 over 2, negative square root 2 over 2. which then leaves me one more. And what does 330 pair with? 30. So this is square root 3 over 2, negative half. Everybody good on that? Does that make sense? And then what is 360? Well, it's the same as 0, 1 comma 0. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you another trick on a different slide. I'm going to draw another circle and show you a different trick that you can use to help learn this so you don't have to learn it or go through it each one like this. Okay, because again, the expectation is you need to become very, very comfortable with this unit circle. I expect my calculus students to memorize it. Like, you have to know it. Okay? Because when you get to college calc, they just expect you to know this. So the more comfortable you are with this now, the better for the future. All right. So to show you the second way you can learn this.
You want to write this one down?
It's up to you. You don't have to write this one down if you don't want. But I call this the bow tie method. Okay, so the four quadrant values, 0, 90, 180, and 270, those are pretty easy to learn, right? Not terribly difficult. They're either 1, 0, 0, 1, or the negatives of those. So that's not hard. It's learning the ratios up the sides and around. That's what makes this difficult. So what we've come up with is what I call a bow tie method. Okay? It's really just reference angles, but for some reason calling it bow tie seems to help people remember what ratios go with what. So if we start at 30, and I draw a line down, a line straight across, down, and straight across. So it looks kind of like a bow tie, right? You see the bow tie?
Yeah.
Okay? All of these values are going to have the same x and y's. The only difference is going to be their sign. And how do we determine the sign? Based off of what's positive and what's negative in a normal Cartesian plane. So 30, 150, 210, and 330 are all going to be some form of square root 3 over 2, comma, 1/2. Then it's just a question of what is positive, what is negative. Does that make sense? Do we see the bow tie of us in a sense there? Yeah? Okay? And I call that the 30-degree bow tie. Okay? Because, again, the only one you have to know, really, is what is the ratio at 30? Well, at 30, cosine is square root 3 over 2, and sine is half. And if you know that, and you know the bow tie, you can just copy those values over at those other three spots, and then all you really have to know is which one's positive and which one's negative. And I'm going to teach you another shortcut for that here in a second. Okay? The second one. What do we think that black bow tie is called?
45.
The 45-degree bow tie. Anything that fits the 45-degree bow tie is going to be square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. Another way to help you remember, anything that ends in 5 on the unit circle, 45, 135, 225, and 315, if it ends in 5, it's going to have square root 2 over 2 as its x and y values. Because it's always going to be a reference angle with 45 degrees. Again, That's why I said if you don't want to write this down, you don't have to. But I found in the past this helps. Seeing it visually instead of just the numbers. Okay? So then what do we think the last bow tie is? 60. Okay? And the last one is 120, 240, 60, and 300. That bow tie is all 1/2 comma square root 3/2. And then it's just a matter of positive, negative, 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 positive, negative. Okay? So again, as I told you when we talked about this last Friday, if you learn the first quadrant, you can do the rest of the unit circle. You just have to know when stuff is positive and when stuff is negative. I don't know if that 9 minutes to start.